Welcome back to another episode of the Next Is Now podcast. After wrapping up the last few episodes with our MHC directors going through teams to watch, expectations for year one of the Made Hoops high school circuit, and a whole lot more, today we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty. First episode talking to our MHC coaches. Be talking to a few different coaches from across the country, talking about players to watch, program history, some expectations on their ends, and a whole lot more. So looking forward to getting into a great slate here. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome on, Coach. Thank you for taking the time to hop on. Know it's a busy period before the spring gets started here, so appreciate you hopping on. Before we get into this year's team, talk a little bit about MHC as a whole, I wanted to talk about really how this came about. So
Yeah.
what's the backstory? What's the evolution? How did Team White Mamba kind of happen here?
All right. So I think you have to go about maybe 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, my daughter's 10 years old, and as a father who's played basketball, and you're still just for me, I'm always focused on environment. So what is the best environment that you could put your kids in, right? And I met an amazing woman. Her name is Lori Boland. She runs the Bay State Jaguars, a very prominent program in the Northeast area, right? I fell in love right away with, the way that they run their practices and the way that they've done things. And, I've helped out with a lot of girls along the way, and they've had some boys along the way, like I'll give you an example of a Trevor Mullins, who's now at Yale, right? Or Cooper Wright at Colgate, or like there's been boy players who were a little bit younger at the time, but, it's kind of dabbling with that. And I feel like it took me like 5 years to really kind of understand the landscape of AAU. Like, what's good, what's bad, where do you put your attention, where do you want to look at players and develop players, and where do you holistically run a team, right? There's a lot of parts to a team. There's your elite flagship team, and then there's a development team where you bring in guys up. There's certain parents that have expectations for their kid to want to be one of the best players on their high school team, and not necessarily all want to be Division I players. Some want to be Division III players and get into a school that they probably couldn't get into without sports. So I feel like the last 5 years I got an opportunity to do that. And then what happened this year was, as you know, like everyone knows Cooper Flagg, and Cooper Flagg skipped a grade. So his Maine United team was sort of having to find a home. And, I know a few kids that I've worked with in the Massachusetts area, and, you have Ace Flagg and Caden Bedard, who were the point guard and Cooper's brother on that Maine United team. I have a relationship with Cooper's brother and the family over the years. And, I like their options weren't phenomenal. So I was like, you know what? Like, I think I could put this together. I know great coaches. I know we have great gyms, my environment, going back to the environment. I feel like I could replicate a great environment for those kids to develop and get better. And I feel like I want to help those kids. Like, I think that they're all really good players that are just on the verge of really kind of breaking through. And sometimes the margins for a player that's a mid-major or a big Power Five, or a low major to a mid-major, it's like one or two things, that you need to add, or one or two things that a player can put their attention to. And I felt like I had enough experience and knew enough people, and surrounded myself with enough great players around me. My son happens to be like 10 years old. So a way for her, like, kind of to look at it, not just for like my U17 team or my U16 team, but sort of start going down the road of building a program. And that's how it all kind of started. And, one thing of, talking about getting it started, and now, like you just mentioned, like we're in the thick of it, of building teams and figuring out where we're going to go, and hotels and flights and this and that. So it's been a great experience. There's the basketball side of it, which I feel like I have a really good grasp for. And then now there's the other side of it, which is like, how do you build a program that's sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Before we get into the team a little bit, you talked about environment there. What was the appeal of MHC for you guys, and why was now the right time to make that move?
Yeah. So I talked to I have tons of friends in the coaching world, right? And, everybody had aspirations to do the big stuff, right? To EYBL, whether it's Adidas, Under Armour, like everyone has that aspiration. But, the more I talk to people, and And I have coaches that are big time coaches, big time assistant coaches. I have friends that are head coaches at mid-major programs or, low major. And, all of them pointed to, Marquis Made, right? In that area, and how Made Hoops is going to have phenomenal basketball and it's going to have the right coaches for your players. And I think that was my main focus was, anybody could get put in situations where they're playing in a place that's, I don't even want to say like above your head, but if you're playing on a major circuit, and you're not getting recruited because it's all the major schools and you're not at that level, you got to get around coaches who are at your level, right? And from my understanding of talking to everybody, like it's never ever 100%, but I think like 90% of the people were like, when you look at the team that I'm building, you look at what Made Hoops is offering, it's like a perfect combination. It's going to be like, I heard the coaching is off the charts at Made. I mean, it was Marquis and Made, right? The coaching is off the charts. Like the players are so appropriately, they understand how to play. So when you start like checking the boxes, like, okay, we're going to be well coached, well spaced, well organized. Our players are going to be here. Our players are, if instead of being 6'9", they're 6'6", right? Like that's the difference between being, going to Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, whatever, and going to your mid-major school, right? So it just felt like a perfect fit for like the players that I have in the program that I'm currently building.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it earlier. I'm sure you watched a ton of Maine United last year. What do you think are the next steps individually for Ace Flag and Caden Bedard going into this spring and summer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really simple, and I think it's the same for both, even though they're both different players, right? Like a lot of times when you grow up playing, let's call it lower level basketball at a young age, right? Like your gather points are too close to the basket, right? A gather point would be when you deck the ball, when you go into your gather package. And a gather package could be a high gather, low gather, Euro gather, right? Like that whole gather package, which we take for granted when we watch like a Cooper Flag, like he's already on the first dribble, first contact. He's already gathering the ball, working on that next move. And his athleticism is so elite, like, but he can carry that through, right? So using Ace Flag, right? Ace Flag has that power game, right? So he takes one extra dribble to get underneath the basket to go right up with it. But we have to teach him not to take that extra dribble, to carry the ball through, to have a late gather, and to elevate through space, right? And it's funny how, you have two people who are twins, right? And one is remarkable at it. And by the way, 99% of people in high school, because they haven't had to learn how to do that next step of meeting a 6'10" guy with athleticism at the rim, you have to teach them this. So the key is to get up quicker than that person so you can make a read on the rim. The key is not to get jammed up underneath the basket. So you now have a kick out to those final corners who's on we call them those emergency release valves if you get swallowed up at the rim. So for all those guys, and basically for all of my players, we have to extend their gather point out. There's no longer a world in which you could deck the ball for one dribble, get underneath the basket, and squeeze a layup up. You are getting that shot blocked. So both those guys, and Caden would be the same thing. He's doing it differently. Like Ace could do it with power and end up at the rim, by floating to the rim. Caden has to learn how to be nasty with his float game, right? Like if you were to watch a high-level college basketball game, how many elite guards are you seeing gathering at 15 feet? You watch an NBA game, how many guards are gathering at 17 feet? Doesn't mean they don't end up at the basket. No, you have to attack like you're going to the rim, but you have to be able to stop in that 13 to 12-foot area where you're not going to challenge that big at the rim. And so many things open up from that. Offensive rebound opportunities, kickouts, moving the defense. So, and I would say that those two guys, like my main focus with those guys is that. Does every player need to be able to catch and shoot quicker? Yes. Does everybody need to be able to move the space to create an angle to shoot the ball quicker? Yes. Does everybody have to be able to drive a closeout and get to the rim? Yes. But the biggest weakness I see with the mid-major kids, and I'll just put them all in that category, mid-major kids, is their gather points are too close to the basket, and it really limits their option when they get there.
Absolutely. Zooming out on the group as a whole, what do you want the identity of your group to be, whether it's play style or whatever?
Yeah, I think it'll be so a combination of two things, right? Like if you're starting to watch a lot of basketball now, you're seeing a lot of basketballs played through the high post. Like if you can, for people that don't know that want to look it up, just think like the 5-out zoom action. You can go on YouTube and look at it and see like how people are playing. So in a more layman's term, Nikola Jokic at the top of the key with the dribble handoff. Go watch Sacramento, Sabonis with a dribble handoff to De'Aaron Fox, right? Like moving bodies around to create space, right? Learning to attack off the catch, get to the paint, and then make that right read. That right read, what we talked about with the gather package, could be a floater. The right read might be a kick out to the corner to an extra pass, right? So you're teaching kids to play. Like there's the problem that I'm sure every AAU coach in the world runs into. If I yell at a player to be aggressive, that player just put their head down, drive to the basket, and shoot a terrible shot, right? But no, you have to learn to do both, right? Can you be aggressive in attacking the paint and compromising the defense by snapping your eyes up and drawing that second defender? If you could do that, and now you can make the right play based off of that. And then when that player is making that right play, when the ball is in the air, can you make the right play on the catch? Is it catch and shoot? It's a catch and rip. If you catch, pump fake, and jab, it's too long. At that point, we're trying to bend the defense will recover, and now you're starting all over again, right? So how much pressure can we put on defenses, right? So that's how we kind of want to play offensively. And, you know, right now we're doing this thing, and last night there was some Final Four teams getting ready to play to the Final Four, and, you know, everyone's playing like a 5-out offense with some, you know, like they're posting guys, but those posts are coming off of dribble handoffs from the top. So, like, that's the style that we want to play. We want it to look really active. We want to push our players to make great decisions when they get into the paint. That's the big challenge over time. Like, it's not easy for our guys to still play with an aggressive mindset, yet still make that nice, cool pass to the corner if they're wide open. And then defensively, you want to be like a really hard no-middle team, because offensively, I want to get to the middle of the floor by moving bodies, getting to that paint. Defensively, we want to protect that middle of the floor. So I think if I came away with, you know, my 3 practices a week up until we start, you know, in June, which will probably go 5 days a week, if I come away with a team that has that type of mentality, I feel really comfortable that we can make small adjustments on elite players if I have to. But you have to stand for something first, right? And for us, we want to figure out ways to move bodies to get the ball to the middle of the floor. And then defensively, we want to keep the ball out of the middle of the floor.
Love it. That's great. Last one I got for you here. Given your experience in college basketball and the NBA, what are some things that you want college coaches who are evaluating your guys to take away, whether it's tangible or intangible?
Well, before I could put that on them, I have to put it on us, right? I want my players to play north and south, right? I want my players, when they go by a defender, to create contact with that defender. I don't want them like veering out and going 3 feet away from their defender, right? I want my players, as we talked about, to gather the ball at a high area, right? I want my players to make the right play, right? So if I can go to any college coach and I say, you notice I never mentioned one time making the shot, right? I love for my college coaches to say, I love the way that, you know, like Team White Mamba plays, you know, in people's space. I love how physical they are offensively. I love where they gather the ball. I think that translates into college. And remember, do I want to win? Of course. Everybody develops teams to win at Made Hoops. I want to go there. I want to win it all. I want to go undefeated, right? There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm not going in thinking I'm going to lose. I don't think like that. But, you know, like sometimes it could end up like that. You can lose games. But the more important thing for me is, like, I want to make winning plays. I want to teach my players to make winning plays, because I'm not concerned about right now, and I'm not concerned about this summer, even though I do want to win. We're going to put the work in to win. I'm concerned that these players get an opportunity to play next year. With the evolution of the transfer portal and everything, like, these coaches are getting ready-made players, right? And ready-made players are players coming in and they're having a ton of experience and they're figuring out what doesn't work. I have to sometimes play a little make-believe, because it's hard to get a gym with 12 players who are ready-made and you're going at it. I'm working hard to do that. I'm calling my NBA guys, all the college kids I've worked with. I need you back in my gym in June so my players can go against you guys so they can figure out what it's like, right? I'm working hard to do that. That's things that I can control. When we talk about environment, I can control that environment. But what I want to do is I want them to evaluate my guys on making winning basketball plays. And winning basketball plays is when you drive, you play north to south. You put your shoulder underneath their hip. You don't allow that player to push you off your line. You own your line. Like, that's a winning play. You sprint the floor, you hold corners. That ball is moved to the corner. That one-touch pass out to the top to another drive. Please evaluate my guys on the plays that they're making, because I'm going to drive home the right place to make. I would love for them to evaluate that and look at that. And then really, at the end of the day, it always will come down to this. And I'm sure parents and everybody out there will never realize this, but the game comes down to position, defense, and rebounding the basketball. And from my point guard to my centers and everybody in between, everybody will be pounding that glass. Because I know, like, coaches can go and they can play against, mid-major players can play against top teams, and they can be better coached, better spaced, better skilled, better defense, but they can't rebound the ball. So one thing I'm going to drive home on my teams is they're going to rebound the ball defensively, right? So if I could have that, whatever the end results are, I think my players will understand this is what it's like when you get to college. The NBA is another animal. It's a completely different animal. There's so many variables on what makes a guy good, right? But in college, I really believe that, like, the few things that you could do to shore up we call it ceiling and floor. So my goal, everybody should try to push their ceiling. Players should try to bust through their ceiling. But my goal as a coach and a organizer of this AAU program is to bring up their floor, because the coach is going to look at a kid and say, for me to play this kid, I got to trust them. And there's a certain amount that you have to do, right, to gain some trust. One, can't play in space away from the defense. Two, can't turn the ball over. Three, when I say you need an aggressive mindset, that this doesn't mean just jack up a bad shot, right? Those are all things that bring your floor up. Now, when you bring your floor up, you get experience to change your ceiling. But everyone looks at it the other way. I'm going to work on the dribble, crossover, step back to raise my ceiling, but I turn the ball over, 6 times a game. That's not how it works in college. So I'm very consciously aware of what these kids want to do to play. And my greatest mission with this team is to prepare the kids when they walk on to whatever school they go to on campus, that they're going to be one of the more mentally tough kids coming in. And they're going to be a team that can play aggressive, but yet play with poise and play with, like, you're going to make mistakes, but aggressive mistakes are so much different than passive mistakes.
Absolutely. No, that was great. Definitely looking forward to staying in touch throughout the spring and summer as the sessions pass by. We'll definitely have to have you back on to talk about how it's going and everything like that. But
yeah,
you taking the time. This was great.
Yeah, anytime. This is like my new side life, and I love it.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Have a great one.
You got it. See ya.
Welcome on. Thank you for taking the time to hop on. No, it's a very busy time of the year, with the spring getting slowly started up here. But before we get into this year's team and talk about MHC as a whole this year, I wanted to get into program history a little bit. So tell me a little bit about the backstory and the evolution of the program.
Absolutely. Well, this is year 25 for us. So, it was something very local when we first started, and kind of took on a life of its own. It became a little more national. We've had the benefit of working with a lot of great kids over the years. We've had well over 80 Division I players, over 100 scholarship kids. Generally, we are a team that I think is pretty regionally balanced. We have kids from the tri-state area. We'll go from, obviously New Jersey, where we're based, but as well, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware. We've had a really loyal group of coaches that have worked with us through the years. The culture's always been the same. We take kids who are strong in the classroom, strong in the community, very solid people, true student athletes. I think that's why we've been able to be successful over the years.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Before we get into this year's team, and I wanted to ask, what was the appeal for you guys of MHC, and why was now the right time to make that move?
For us, a lot of it was based on the people involved. We've known Chad Babel and Jeff Kovner and Eric Kessler and Rob Noonan for many, many years. Rob coached with me at one time. So for us, it was not a leap of faith. I thought the people that were involved with this were so highly successful in what they do that this couldn't be anything but a great venture. I thought it was a natural fit for us for a lot of reasons. I knew it would be successful, but it's kind of blown up even more quickly than I'd ever imagined. This is only year 2, and it's an amazing product.
Absolutely. So getting into your group, who do you expect to be your go-to guys, essentially the magnets for college coaches? No, you have a bunch of guys.
Yeah, traditionally we've been a team that's pretty well rounded. We often average 4 or 5 double-figure scores every game. I like that balance. I've said, and I don't want to go off topic, but I've also said that, in the last 2 years, we've had 16 total players. Of those 16, 9 have received Division I scholarships. In an age of what we talk about of transfer portal run amok, extra years of eligibility, NIL deals, that's unheard of for an independent program. And I think it's because we're balanced. We kind of prioritize the entire group. As they're successful as a group, they're successful individually. So to get back to your question, I think, we have several guys that we feel very, very good about. Obviously the big fella's coming back, Steve Mathelier, 6'8", 265. He's a former Army commit, who is now playing in the spring of his senior year. As I had said, we don't play with a traditional point guard per se. We like a lot of similarly sized combination guards in that 6'3" to 6'5" range, who are able to do a little bit of everything. They're Swiss Army knives. Colleges are playing more like that these days. And so, we recruit, appropriately for that. The first guy is Gabe Hornberger, who was with us at the end of last season. He's a junior at Executive Charter in Pennsylvania, 6'4" kid. He shoots it really well. He can defend. He's a great ball distributor. Really a coach on the floor, high IQ. He's a tremendous student. So he is firmly on the radar of Ivy and Patriot League schools right now. He's had a few unofficial visits, and we feel very strongly about his potential. London Carson from Elizabeth High School is a senior who will be taking a postgraduate year and reclassing into 25. He was the player of the year in Union County, New Jersey, second team All-State. Really athletic kid, plays downhill, gets to the basket really well, great defender, superb in transition, but has a half-court game. He can play in structure. He's also a very good student. And once people have found out that he is probably going to go back into the 25 class, Division I schools have reached out liberally to find out, if they can get involved in his recruitment. The third guy in that particular group is Isaiah Thomas from Paul VI. He's a 6'4" wing, 6'9" wingspan. Really a lesser known name, but he won't be for long. He's a dynamic athlete, does some things that just make you gasp athletically. He knows how to play. He can finish around the rim. He's got a good mid-range. He can hit the three. I think that these 3 guys on the perimeter are really intriguing for a lot of schools. Beyond the first 4 that we mentioned, we have Henry Rasmussen, who's a 6'8" stretch 4 from the Shipley School in Pennsylvania. Shoots the ball really well. He's a really rugged defender. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty. Runs really well. And I think he's a kid that's going to contribute. And then we have 2 guys that are coming back from last year. First is 𝘿evelopment, 6'7" stretch 4 from Delaware Valley High School. He's going to postgraduate as well. And, he shoots the ball really well. He can finish around the rim with both hands. He runs very well. So he's a guy who has experience and knows our system. The other is Rion Armitage, who's a 6'6" wing from St. Thomas Aquinas. Also was with us last year. He'll do a postgraduate year. He's a younger senior. So, he's a very versatile guy. He's interesting in that he can play every position, the one through 4, and defend it as well. So he does a little bit of everything for us. Really, really high basketball IQ. All these guys have high basketball IQs. I think I'm really intrigued by that. I'm happy about that. We have a couple of more pieces that we're going to add in the next week or so. I'm not at liberty to kind of give you the names yet until it actually happens.
Yeah.
There's some moving parts there, whether guys are going to prep, what have you. But these are names that I'm also very excited about. So I think it's a really nice roster. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I have a 16 and under team that I think is very intriguing as well. Some really strong names there as well. So we're cautiously very optimistic and very excited about this year.
That's great. That's great. Taking a step back from the roster, and you might have mentioned it already, but what do you think will be your guys' identity, or essentially an area you guys can hang your hat on?
That's a great question. We run this very much like a collegiate program. We're very structured, more so than the average AAU team. I've seen a lot of AAU basketball, where it's just an up and down affair, and it's hard to watch sometimes. I think the good thing about the MHC teams is they play a lot like we do. We're structured. We, obviously with a shot clock, we're moving quickly, but we have a lot of half court sets, a lot of inbounds plays, multiple defenses. We scout. One of the best things about it is colleges have said to us, you guys look like a mirror image of what we try to do. And so when our guys go to college, a lot of them play immediately because they're used to the regimentation of it, so to speak. So I think we're very much under control. We can play any number of ways. We can play fast. We can play in a slower pace. We do like to get the ball up and down. We like to utilize the 3-point line. We defend really hard, which I think, defense travels. So when we're finding our way offensively, I think we can hang our hat on the defensive end of the floor. It's a great group of kids who really want to be coached, and they're consistent, which I think all those things go into us being who we are. That's our identity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. My next question that I was going to ask was what do you want college coaches to take away from evaluating your group? But I think you hit on it already there. So I'll take it a different direction, kind of away from MHC. But as you've said, for 25 plus years now, been around AAU basketball, you've seen the college landscape change a ton. Prep is involved in this too. What are kind of the biggest things that you voice to your guys as they maneuver the recruiting process recently?
This is an unprecedented time for a lot of reasons. I've spoken to college coaches where they've said to me, our priority is to re-recruit our own guys every year to make sure we're not having guys leave that we want. Then we look into the portal ourselves. Then we look for, junior college guys, prep school guys. I hate to say this, but the high school student athlete has almost been devalued in a sense. So you have to approach the recruiting process with an open mind and being able to adapt to what's happening. You know what they say, adapt or perish, right? So I often encourage people to take a repeat year or a postgraduate year. Colleges seem to be looking for older, more mature prospects who are physically developed and have a shorter learning curve when it comes to joining their teams. They don't have time often to bring along a high school student athlete at a slower pace. So we have to make sure that our guys are ready to go right out of the box. Like as soon as they get there, they've got to be able to adjust to living away from home, the discipline, the structure of how to, manage your time, of how to approach the weight room, how to approach practice. That comes with maturity. And so we look for kids who are already mature, true student athletes that will be able to adapt quickly when they go to college. So, it's a lot of instruction, a lot of education. I'm often talking to kids and their parents about what we're up against at this point and how to navigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. I feel like it's just definitely getting more complicated year over year. And obviously the portal's already taken over this spring, but again, appreciate you taking the time. This was great. Looking forward to watching the guys this spring, and we'll definitely be catching up as the sessions pass on. So appreciate the time.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
Coach Strobel, appreciate you taking the time here. I know it's a busy time before the spring gets going, so appreciate you taking the time. Wanted to get right into it. Before we get into your actual team, the spring and summer head, everything like that, I wanted to get into this program history a little bit. So I would say just what's the backstory and the evolution of the Scoring Factory so far?
So we settled in Pittsburgh, my wife and I and our growing family back in 2009 after playing overseas for 9 years, and recognized that there was a need for basketball training, for skills development. And it started out with one kid, then it turned into 2 and 3 and 4. And pretty soon we were renting gym space and we needed more areas to get all the kids and reach the demand. And things grew. I think we did a very good job. I don't want to sit here and pat ourselves on the back, but I think we did a very good job teaching and helping players advance. Some players went on to play at a very high level, college and beyond, professionally. And a lot of kids improved enough to start on the varsity team. So our goal has always been basically to help kids reach their ceiling, their potential. And it grew from there. So 2009, fast forward, we got to a point in time where we had I would say a solid staff of coaches. Things were in a good place. I left to go coach overseas in Germany in the Bundesliga. When we were over there, obviously COVID happened. COVID was a terrible time for everybody, kind of broke a bunch of things. So it was time to come home. It was time to come home, be closer to family, no grandma, no grandpa, no visitors and all that kind of stuff, which when you have a family with 4 kids, that's kind of tough. It sucks. So we came back, started building everything back up. And I would say that we're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of track. And I think we're doing some good things here on the ground floor in Pittsburgh to help make sure that we're not known as just a football town, that people see all the talent that's here. For a long time, it's just been potential. But I think there's a lot of talent, and I think there's some very good people that continue to do good work, but it's a matter of being aligned and pointing everything in the right direction to make sure that kids can get from here to their highest level. And I think that's where you guys come in. I think you guys are obviously amazing at that. So we need that help. We need that help to get the exposure and get these kids in front of the coaches and scouts that need to see them, so we can make sure that we continue to transform Pittsburgh into a basketball hotbed.
Absolutely. I think you may have beaten me to my next question there a little bit, but what was the appeal for you guys in terms of MHC, and why was now the right time to make that move?
So we've been working very diligently to help craft a broad-based basketball IQ in players, to make sure that they know how to move without the ball, to make sure they understand spacing. And I would say that's a little bit European. I hate to say that with those quotation marks, but there's a reason why there's so many guys in the NBA whose names people can't pronounce, right? So we want to play a certain style. We want the ball to move. We don't want to be ISO dominant. We don't want to only play selfish basketball. So we're finally at the point where some of those kids have come through the program and now at the right age to be at that highest level. Made Hoops is, I don't want to, you guys know this, I don't want to toot your horn, but Made Hoops is a very well-known brand. It's a very well-known platform. You see kids all over the place, even here in Pittsburgh, with the logo on the side of the sleeve and all that. So I think it's a perfect fit. We're excited to be on the circuit. We're excited to represent Pittsburgh. We have work to do. We want to go out there and represent well. We want to win games. We want to get onto the main courts. We want to give our kids a chance to show what they can do. But there's work to be done, and we're willing to do that work. We're willing to earn it and make sure that people see what we're about.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's get into your group a little bit here. So who do you expect to be your go-to guy or guys this spring and summer, I'd say?
I think we have a couple, and I think that's the beauty when you craft a team and build a team, and it's not just a bunch of random guys that don't know each other. So we have a bunch of guys that have already played together. There's a little bit of chemistry, and I think we have a lot of talent. On the flip side of that, I would say that we have talent that's going to grow and mature moving forward, because we have guys that aren't just in the 2025 class. We have a couple of very good players in the class of 2026. So as we build, as we prove ourselves, there should be a lot of continuity once we get on the circuit. Should be a lot. Our Neuron Jackson, very good player, point guard from the city. Pedro Strobel, my son, 6'3", class of 2026. I have 2 brothers, Tyler and Ryan Robbins, which, they have very good genes. Their mom is a 6'4" monster, played at Virginia Tech back in the day. The dad is also a former Division I athlete, played football at Pitt. And their older sister is already on a scholarship at Marist. So both of those kids are big, they're tall, they're long. And the key for me and the part that I really enjoy is they're workers. So they're students of the game. They want to work, they want to learn. And they're in the gym constantly learning how to short roll, how to flash, how to seal, how to initiate contact, how to do all the things that a true big knows how to do. So I think we're going to play a style in a certain way where, yeah, we want to have enough freedom. We want to play full court man-to-man defense. We want to generate turnovers. We want to generate steals. I think everybody would say the same thing. But when the game slows down, I think we'll have some nice structure and some nice sets where players will be understand how to read and make the right decisions. So I think we have a bunch of guys, and chemistry is a key here. I think we have a bunch of guys are athletic. Some of those guys are long. Some of those guys are very skilled. Some of those guys are good shooters. But all of them have a certain level of chemistry and willingness to play for a team as a team. And I think that's also something that college coaches would probably prefer to see instead of just a ragtag bunch of guys that are all trying to score 30 points themselves.
For the group as a whole, I wanted to ask you, maybe a month or two down the line from now, what do you want your group's identity to be in terms of style of play? What college coaches take away from you guys?
First and foremost, I would like for them to say that they compete at a very high level. They play really hard. I want our guys to play really hard. I understand that the game can get sloppy sometimes, but we don't want to be the guys that are complaining to the referees. We don't want to be the guys that look like a bunch of individuals that just met each other. We really want to have a group of kids that represent Pittsburgh, meaning that we don't want to have a bunch of guys from Ohio or West Virginia or New York or some other place. We really want to represent the city and nurture talent from here. If I had to choose between winning every game and nobody gets a scholarship or everybody gets a scholarship and we have to lose some games along the way, for sure we want to use this platform to help them be seen, but we need to compete at a high level. So I want coaches to recognize that. Something I'd also like to see is that coaches appreciate our basketball IQ. I want them to recognize that guys make the right play. Guys know how to swing the ball. Guys know how to make the extra pass. Guys know how to draw and kick. Guys know how to read the pick and roll defense because it's not always the same thing and there's different decisions that need to be made. So I would like to see that college coaches, smart basketball coaches recognize that there's going to be a little bit less teaching that needs to take place if and when they recruit some of our guys.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Last question I'm going to ask, kind of flipping the scope here, but as your guys kind of enter the recruiting process, obviously some of your guys you mentioned are a little bit younger, but what are some things you voice to your guys as they kind of maneuver that recruiting process, things that they should look for at the next level as someone who's had experience overseas in college basketball, everything like that?
Yeah, I think fit is very important if you're talking about which school, which level. I think you want to go where you're wanted, but I also have to say that the landscape seems to be changing not only every year, but every month. It feels like there's different rules and different transfers, and I mean, the transfer portal is absolutely crazy. So it's a very hard time to be a high school player right now because of the extra COVID year, because of just the extended amount of time that players are able to play and capable of playing and making money. So there's guys moving left and right. So for us, our advice is very individualized. I think every player is different with which offers they get and which fit might be good for them. But I do have to say that I think sadly the time of somebody going somewhere for 4 years might be done, so it's a weird landscape. I think we're all doing the best that we can to try to navigate that. We want to be older, wiser, and use our basketball experience to help players. But I do have to say, and we all have to admit, it might be different by the time summer rolls around, and it's definitely going to be different in another year or two. So it's an evolving landscape, and I think all of us need to collectively make sure we stay with our ear to the ground and make sure we're ready to adapt with it.
Absolutely. That's all I got. Again, thank you very much for taking the time here. Looking forward to tapping in with the guys this spring. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Max.
Coach Jackson, appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. I know it's a busy period with school closing up, getting ready to end, and then getting into the spring, summer stuff here. So appreciate you taking the time. Before we get into this year's team and MHC as a whole, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the program history. So I'll pass it over to you. What's the backstory and the evolution of Michigan Unified?
Thanks, Max. Glad to be here. So Michigan Unified We actually started as the Detroit Spartans about 15 years ago. Actually, when I was in high school, coming up through grassroots at AAU and all those good things. My older brother actually started the program, and just last year we changed the name to Michigan Unified because here in the state of Michigan, for those who don't know, there's a lot of travel ball and AAU programs and clubs, and we're really divided when it comes to players playing with certain teams and things like that. So we started Michigan Unified because the goal is to bring Michigan basketball together on a travel hoop side. We have our main shoe teams, and then you have a lot of mom and pop shop teams that stay in the mix. So Michigan Unified main goal and the history behind us is to make sure we bring Michigan basketball together and make sure everybody has a chance to showcase their skills nationally.
Awesome. That's big time. We're gonna get into some of your guys here shortly, but first, for you guys, what was the appeal of MHC and why was now the right time to make that move?
For us, we were looking for somewhere else to move to because for those who don't know, we played on the Adidas circuit, the gold circuit for the past 2 years. Competed very well, played very good competition. Thought we won our way to a big deal, and it never happened. So we decided this fall and winter to make a move, and the most appealing league or circuit that we came across was definitely MHC. So we're excited about it. We've seen all the teams that have committed. We're a Midwest, team, so being able to stay Midwest, East Coast, it makes the things a lot easier on our end when it comes to travel, and just being able to be competitive, being a competitive league with other states and cities. I think that's huge for us. So that was the most appealing thing to us. Not only that, May Hoops has always been big when it comes to younger age groups. So to be able to actually branch off from that, I know it'll be a good thing for us.
No doubt. All right, let's get into your group a little bit. Who do you expect essentially to be your go-to guys or your top guys on the opposing scouting reports this spring and summer?
Are we talking 17s or total program?
Let's start with 17s, and you can take it either.
We just finished up our last tryout this past Sunday, and it got pretty thick. We got some guys. We landed a few big pieces in the state of Michigan, and we're really excited about our roster. We actually started tweeting out guys who we were actually happy to have, and just to give everyone a sneak preview and not to scout us away. We're really excited about having a kid named Nate Washburn. He's going to play as a unsigned senior for us this spring. Big frame, 6'8". He's able to post and shoot the three. So we're really excited about him. Guard play. We have some of the best guards from the city of Detroit right now when it comes to 17U talent. 𝘼Smith-Poe, he plays at University Prep. Memphis McDowell, he plays at River Rouge. Coming from downriver, we have a kid named Graham. He's going to be huge for us. Just landed J.J. Frakes. J.J. Frakes is a very good athletic kid. He can shoot the three. Kid coming out of the Catholic League, which is one of the toughest leagues in the state of Michigan. Xavier Johnson, long, athletic. He runs the floor well. He's able to shoot the three. He defends well. Alongside just those guys to name, we have some other pieces that we know is going to be huge for us here on the MHC circuit. I'm excited about the roster. I know it'll be fun. I know it'll be energetic. I know the guys will get after it. So we should have a lot of fun with these guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, it might be a guy that you mentioned already, or maybe not. But if there's a guy you think kind of breaks out on the college recruitment front, who do you think that might be?
A kid out of the west side of the state. His name is Caden Neves. He's about 6'6", big frame, big guard. Plan on starting him at the 2, maybe the 3. Kid is athletic, can shoot the 3. He's only been in the state of Michigan for about 5 months now. So we've been trying to keep it real quiet about him because we know how AAU works. Yeah. Once you post something about a kid, everybody goes hunting. So I think he'll be our biggest guy to wow the college coaches. And then coming out of Troy High School, Mason Parker, athletic guard, can shoot the ball very well. I think those two guys will, be the guys that actually raise some eyebrows and get some attention quickly.
Absolutely. And then I just zooming out for the group as a whole, on the 17s front especially, What do you think your guys' identity will be? You're in essentially an area you guys can hang your hat on.
We're going to check. We're going to check. We here at Michigan Unified, we don't believe in playing zone. We believe in checking. One of our philosophy: if you can't check, you can't play. So here we're going to check. We're going to be athletic. We're going to run the floor. We're going to shoot the ball extremely well. So just those two things, I think that'll be big for us on the circuit this year.
No doubt. Kind of going off that, in terms of college coaches at any level, what is one thing you'd want them to take away in evaluating your guys' group?
Our guys are going to work hard. Along with working hard, they're going to be coachable. Of course, you have to work hard to be coachable to play at the next level. But we're make sure we send guys to their level. So one thing we can guarantee college coaches, once they get in on our guys, we're going to be honest and upfront, and we're going to make sure they know, hey, this kid can either play at your level or you can't. We don't lie. We don't sugarcoat anything. Either you can play at that level or you can't. And that's the thing that has had us in a position to continue to get kids to move on to the next level. We send guys to the level they can play. Since we've been doing this, we've had 2 kids transfer down. One kid transferred down because he realized it wasn't his level. The other kid transferred down because he tore his Achilles. So other than that, we're going to send college coaches guys that can play at that level, that can stick there, that can be a program guy. Along with all that, like I said, being coachable and being able to, get the job done.
Absolutely. That's a lost art for sure. So that's big time. But again, thank you very much for taking the time. We'll definitely be in touch and probably hop back on throughout the spring and summer as games and the sessions get going and everything like that. But looking forward to tapping into the guys this spring. Good luck.
We're excited, and again, we appreciate you guys for having us. Like I said, the guys are getting geared up. We're getting really excited and geared up for that first set weekend in Cincinnati, and we hope to put on a good show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Max.
Coach, appreciate you taking the time here. No, it's a busy period before everything gets rolling this spring. So definitely excited to have you on, talk about the program, talk about some of the guys. Before we get into this year's team and MHC as a whole, I wanted to talk a little bit about the program itself. So tell me a little bit about the backstory, evolution of New Haven Heat.
Yep. So New Haven Heat been around since, I want to say, around 2000s. It took a little break. The founder was Frank Redente. Then my father rebranded it around 2014, and I came to be a part of it. And we started off with one team in 2014. Now we got around 12 teams. We started off, mostly it still is for inner city kids that need more exposure, need other outlets to keep them out of trouble and to show them how to be student athletes. And that's one of the things that, as a program, we look forward to even more than the basketball part. Basketball-wise, we won the AAU Nationals 19U in 2019. Beat a lot of top circuit teams, but bigger than that, we have over 70-plus kids go to college since 2019. We got certain kids like Kelly Evans that is going to Austin Pay. Mikey West that went to Bethune-Cookman, Kazale Stewart that's at Southern Connecticut, a lot more that's going to be coming out real soon as a program. Like I said, we started off as a little local team, then we built our national brand going all over from Vegas, Florida, and just competing to show them that Connecticut has talent around here.
No doubt. That's big time. Before we get into some of the guys, talk about the team, wanted to ask, what was the appeal for you guys of MHC and why was right now the time to make that move?
Two things. Eric Kessler. I saw what he did when he was at Hope Group and had his building the independent teams with the high level D1 schools and D2s, making that connection. He did a great job there, and I knew he was going to do a great job at Made Hoops, but also Made Hoops with the national platform. Like I said, we're pretty good and known in the New England and tri-state area. One of our main things is reaching coaches all over the country, and that's where I feel like MHC definitely helped us out at.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the guys. Who do you expect, I guess, to be your go-to guys? Some of the guys that college coaches will be looking out for.
We have a very deep team. I know a lot of you guys know Buddy Williams and Q Duncan. they're gonna do what they do. You know, they got the name already. But there's a couple kids like 𝘖lopment that will ring some bells this year. Brandon Beekman, both 6'6" wings, athletic. Zaire shoot the lights out. Eli Limerick, another 6'6" shooter, shoot the lights out. Then we got a couple guys on the radar: Kevin, X, and Brown. All 6'7". X is a 6'7" forward. Bron is a 6'3", 6'4", 3-and-D player, and Kevin can go to Prophet, very strong physical guard, and we got a lot more that will definitely be coming out. So,
absolutely, those are all good ones. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a bunch more of all of those guys. You'll have a ton of talent, some high upside guys. Zooming out, looking at the team as a whole and the play style, what are some areas of the game you think you guys will be able to hang your hat on?
One of the it's gonna be new for us. We have a lot more shooters than in the year before. So I think we're gonna be able to pull up a lot of high number games. But we also have, like I said, we don't have a 7-footer, but we have a lot of 6'2" to 6'7" players where we could defend and run athletic. So we're gonna be able to match up with certain teams when we get to that point. You know, like I said, you're gonna see us be scrappy, grinding it out. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of special plays on the offensive end too, because we do have a lot of high-level scores.
Big time. You talked a little bit about college coaches being in the building, evaluating your guys. What are some things you want college coaches to take away from evaluating your group?
Just certain guys, like especially our public school guys in Connecticut, they play out of position. So now that in the AAU season, you can see them in their natural position where they will be playing in college, and take a look at them now. I know some of them you probably saw it through high school, but 6'6" in Connecticut is a big man. 6'6" during AAU, they could play the wing and show their whole game. Then, like I said, kids like Q and Buddy, like we have a lot of Division I talent. Like I said, not only Division I, Division II, we just got high level character kids that's going to put in the work every day, and that's what they're going to see a lot.
That's great. Love it. Looking forward to catching up with the group over the next few months. Definitely we'll have to have you back on after some sessions pass by, talk about the group and everything like that. But that's all I got. Appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to tapping in more.
Yes, sir, man. See you soon.
Appreciate it.